Hey everyone, welcome back to the Elementor Basics series. Today we're going to be talking about containers and grids. They're two of the most important updates to how Elementor layouts work. First up, we have containers. Now these replace the old section and column system that Elementor used to have. They're kind of like flexible boxes that can hold other elements like text, images, or even more containers or even grids. They're faster, cleaner, and if you know anything about CSS, they use Flexbox, so it allows complete control over the alignment and spacing of the container, and way better performance. So we're just going to add one here. You can either just drag one over, or you can click the add button there. If you click the plus sign, that gives you the option to add a flexbox or a grid to the things that we're going to be talking about. So we'll just add a flexbox. Now here you actually get to the structure of it. So if you know CSS flexbox, this will just set the direction or create a grid structure. So normally I just click on column, which will align your items into a column instead of into a row. And there we have it. So now we have our container set up. In the left-hand panel, you'll see all the settings. You can either easily switch between a grid and a flexbox here in the layout. The content width, you can actually set a width for your content. I'll add something here so we can actually get a better visual. How about we just add some sort of image? Don't have any. All right, well, we'll still be able to see it anyways with the placeholder here. So if you change the width of your container, you'll actually see this will be the max width in pixels that the container allows. So if we go down to 500, that image placeholder is just going to be 500 width. The minimum height of the container, you can actually make it taller than it is or shorter. Sometimes I'll come in here if you're doing a hero section. You can add 100 viewport height, so that'll actually fit the size of your display. Again, you can change this the direction of your container here on the left side. Row, if we added it in something else, let's say a heading here. Now you can easily see that this is a column, right? The image is above the text. If we wanted to change this to a row, you'll see that the image and the text actually appear beside each other in a row. Again, row reversed, it'll reverse the items in your container, and column reverse, same thing, will reverse the items in your column. Okay, let's go back to a column vertical. Justify content, the same thing. If you know CSS, you can align items in the center. You can space them evenly. You can space around. You can actually space between so that they'll appear at the top and the bottom of your container there. In a row, you can align items in the center the same way, and you can stretch if that image, if that had an image, it would then stretch to be the full height of this container. So gaps, let's get rid of the space between here. So gaps are going to be the actual column and row gaps inside of your container here. So if we added like 100, you'll see that the gap now between the rows is going to be 100 pixels. If we change this back to be a row, this gap horizontally is going to be 100 pixels. Additional options, you can actually, I don't really use much here. If I am doing a header or a footer, I will change the HTML tag. Sometimes you can add a link here to have a link over your entire container. Style, let's delete the things in here now. And let's actually change this to be full width. So this would be a full width, a hero section or whatever. This is going to take up the entire display right now because it's set to width 100% and the minimum height is 100 viewport height. So if we go back to style now, you can see the background type. Classic is going to be, you can either make it a color, so we can make it that blue. You can add in an image. And if we did add an image here, you'll see that it actually pops up with some other options that you can use. So normally if you just add an image to a background, it'll apply all these as default. Changing the position to center will center your image. Attachment has scroll or fixed options. If you do repeat, it will repeat the image. Like if you made it, let's say, the display size will make custom and we'll do, 30%. You can see that actually repeats this background image, versus if you turn repeat off, it'll just have one image there. And this actually will also demonstrate a little bit better the position option here. If you make it center left, it'll go over to the left. Top center, again, top center there, bottom right, just to show you how this actually works. So I just changed the display size back to default, and we can go over these options here. So we have in the display size, we have default, auto, cover, contain, and custom. Now auto it will not change the resolution of your image. So if you have a very high res image, it's going to appear pretty zoomed in like it does right now. Cover is what I normally use. It shrinks it just enough so that it fits well into your background image. It shrinks it the minimum amount, so there's the least amount of cropping. So this is the one I mostly use for things like heroes. Contain is going to keep the original dimensions of the image, but fit it into your section. So you'll see that there is usually some white space in something like that because it doesn't fit perfectly. And then custom, you can actually, I did this before, but you can change the percentage or pixel value of your image. So from here, you can also add a background overlay. If we go down to that tab, you can add in, say you wanted to darken this to show some color contrast on some text. You can do that. You can change the opacity so you can see that it now has an overlay of gray here. And you can also add in your image into the overlay. Doesn't really matter. You can also do a gradient. So let's say you wanted some text on the left to have a better color contrast. You'd be able to change these gradient settings to actually achieve that. So we might change this to, let's say, 90 degrees so that the color is appearing on the left side of the screen. We might change this to black. And maybe change the location a little bit. So now we can maybe add some text on the left side. And we'll center this as well. Over here in the justify content. So now we could actually add in some white text just so you can see it having a little bit more of a color contrast with that gradient in the overlay. And we can even change the opacity so it's even more dark and so on. So we'll just continue quickly with the rest of these options. On background overlay and on the background tabs, you'll have hover. So you can actually change the background on if you want to hover over the section. If I change this to a different image here on hover, you'll see now that when I actually move my mouse onto the section, it'll change the background. You can change the display size of that. So if we wanted to also make this one, cover, we can do that. It has different dimensions, so it's going to do that warping effect. But just to give you an idea, the transition duration as well, if you want to increase that or decrease that, you can see if I increase it to 2 seconds, you'll see that this is a lot slower when I hover over the section. Then we have the border, which is pretty straightforward as well. If you want to make a solid border type here, and we'll make the width like 20 so you can actually see it. And maybe we'll make this blue. So that'll actually, let me remove this hover effect. So that'll give you this blue border around your section. The border radius as well, if we want to make that 30, maybe 300, you'll see that it adds a border radius to your section as well. And a shape divider is mainly for styling purposes, but if you wanted, it mainly breaks up sections on websites. If you wanted to add, some sort of curve to the top or the bottom, you can do that. And it'll add in a little shape that you have to give a color to as well, like that. Now, lastly, we can move over to the Advanced tab. This allows you to add in a margin, any padding to your section. So if you wanted your content to be, let's add a 200 pixel padding here, you'll see that this is actually moved out 200 pixels. Margin works outside of your section. So if you wanted to add, let's say, a 200 margin left, you'll see that the whole section moves over. And padding obviously works on the inside of your section, so it'll apply to any widgets you have in there. We then have a couple CSS rules that we can easily edit here, like align, self, order, size, position, z-index. We'll get into those later. If you want to add in your own CSS ID and class, you can do that. And I'll show you a little example here. If I give this a CSS ID of example, and I come down here to custom CSS, I would actually be able to write my own rules here. So I could do the same margin left thing to give you an idea. So margin left of 200 pixels does the same thing as it did in the layout tab above here. So I'll get rid of that. Responsive. If you want to hide something on a tablet or mobile or desktop, if you have some device specific sections or anything like that, you're able to. So if I do hide on tablet portrait and I move over to the tablet here, you'll see in the preview that nothing would show up because I've hidden it on tablet. You'll still see a grayed out version in the editor. If I go to mobile, you'll see, because I haven't turned this off, it does show up on mobile. So I'll delete all this and we can actually move over to talking about a grid. So you can either, again, you can click the plus sign or you can drag it over. And a grid is obviously to set up more of a structured layout for your section. And if you know anything about CSS, it uses the grid property instead of Flexbox. So down here in the grid items, you can actually change it. So if you want 2 columns and 2 rows, you can just change that to 2 and 2. And you'll see here that you're able to now add in items easily into a 2x2 grid. Now, a lot of this stuff is the same. So content width is the same, going from box to full width. Minimum height's the same. Gaps are the same if you want to do gaps between all of your grid items. Auto flow is just going to change the direction of the way items are added. So if I wanted to add in, let's say I added in 2 images here. Now you can see that they're going from top left to right, top to bottom. And if I change auto flow here, it's just going to start going from top to bottom, left to right, as you can see there. So if I, maybe I can change this so you have a better idea. We'll go 3x3. If I add in another one here, it's going to pop up below. The next one's going to pop up in the top middle. And if I change that back to auto flow row, it's going to go left to right, top to bottom. So if you want more quick tutorials like this, hit like and subscribe. If you have any questions about anything related to Elementor, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. And in the next couple videos, we're going to get into actually adding in widgets. We're going to be using grids and containers a lot, as you can imagine, as they are the main structure of any Elementor site right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.